It's been 26 years since Columbine. Why haven't they released the basement tapes by now? Well, this is a great question. It deserves an honest answer, but unfortunately, that honest answer is very, very ugly and very, very sad. The Columbine High School Massacre occurred in April of 1999. It is 26 years and 8 months later, and the numbers of the effect of Columbine has had on other attacks is absolutely mind boggling. The first act of violence that occurred that was inspired by Columbine happened 10 days after the attack happened, and that was in Alberta, Canada. The most recent happened on November 7th this year in Jakarta, Indonesia. In those 26 years and 8 months, over 100 different attacks have occurred where someone has tried to take the lives of others and they were somehow inspired by or influenced by Columbine. Not counting any perpetrators themselves, just innocent lives. 313 people have lost their lives and another 676 have been wounded. And that's just come from media reports. That's just come from what has been released in investigations. The people who have committed these attacks have been very infatuated with the assailants at Columbine. They've been like very influenced by them. They have been very inspired that, they took control of their situation. Why can't I? Or they did this thing that I think is so cool. I'm going to mimic it after them. 313 people are gone. Now we have summaries of the basement tapes. We have some quotes. There was like a 30-second long piece of like audio that was leaked by one of the victims' fathers. And even then he released it under false pretenses. Ooh, I have things to say about Daryl Scott. And we have those like base summaries of what was contained in the basement tapes. The assailants in those tapes talk about why they are doing or why they plan on doing what they ended up doing. They talk specifically about the planning. They talked about how they hid things from their families and friends. They gave instructions on how they did what they did, or at the time how they were going to do what they ended up doing. Imagine how that would fire up people even more to do crazy, horrible, vile, violent things. Imagine how worse things would get. 313 innocent lives lost in the past 26 years would be nothing compared to what would happen if they released them. Some really big like mass instances that gained huge media attention that were inspired by Columbine? Uvalde, NIU, Virginia Tech, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Aurora, Colorado. Did I already say Virginia Tech? If I didn't put Virginia Tech on the list. And these aren't just domestic attacks. These are happening internationally. Now, here's the other reason that is not confirmed, but that a lot of people suspect. It is suspected by a lot of people who have researched Columbine in depth that we know that the assailants talk about like why they did what they did, or like I said, where we're going to do what they ended up doing, how they got away with it, how they hid things, their motivations, things of that sort. That within those explanations, we would find out things about Columbine High School, about the police, different ways, or their parents potentially, a million different ways, supposedly, that people apparently dropped the ball. And if people would have paid attention to certain things, or if certain things wouldn't have happened the way that they did, if other people didn't make certain decisions, that Columbine could have been prevented. And there is a belief in certain research communities, there's a lot of people who wholeheartedly believe that releasing the basement tapes at this point would expose a lot of people and a lot of institutions for what they were and not how they actually were trying to like portray themselves in the media after the attacks. And it's just a bunch of people trying to save face or trying to save the fact that other people could be realizing that they did something, or they could have done something, or that they didn't do something to prevent what happened. A lot of reputations could be at stake. A lot of lives could be ruined, a lot of careers. Yeah, definitively the after attack. It's called the Columbine effect, but also what it could potentially reveal about where and how the assailants grew up.